Warping is the first process in the making fabric. We have two machines here, and what we're doing is taking the cones of yarn and winding the threads off round the drum on the machine and then onto the weaver's beam. We have two machines, one which does short runs. It's a very high-tech machine, very computerized Japanese machine, and the other machine is for longer runs. Both of them ultimately produce a weaver's beam with all the threads wound off the cones and onto the beam, and then the beam is then ready to go to the looms where the real magic starts to take place. The yarns that we're looking at here are from Donegal yarns in Kilcar, and they are the only genuine spinner of tweed yarns, Donegal tweed yarns in the world. So we're delighted to be able to use their yarns here, a Donegal mill and a Donegal spinner, so it keeps it all in Donegal. The Suzuki machine is like a little piece of magic. Nowadays it can make a warp with only one or two individual cones of a yarn, and it is great for making short samples. In the old days we didn't have this facility, so you had to buy in 30 or 40 cones of a yarn even to make one scarf. So the difference is phenomenal. Living here in Donegal on the Wild Atlantic Way, we see every day what a lovely clean environment we live in. So it is important to us that we are not doing anything that is damaging that. We only weave natural fibres here, which are all very sustainable. We use only green electricity, and everything we make is ultimately recyclable or biodegradable. So we want to keep the environment that is lovely and clean and a great place to live just exactly that way. The next stage is to tie the warp beam into the loom, and effectively what we're doing here is tying each of the 1800 threads that are already in the loom onto the 1800 threads that are coming into the loom on the fresh beam. This is a very skilled job, and it takes a long time to train and get proficient at this. When the threads are combed out correctly and everything is just perfect, the Swiss-made machine runs across and ties all the knots, and if there are any mistakes at this stage, it's just a disaster and can be a real mess, or else the design is messed up and you're back to square one. In the late 1940s, my father and my grandmother had a general store around the corner from where the mill is today, and they sold fabrics and garments. And my father had this idea that maybe the tweeds they were selling could be woven in Downings to try and create a little bit of employment in the area. So he went off to study textiles in Galashiels for 2 winters and managed to get a couple of handlooms, and then he made a trip to Ardara and persuaded 2 hand weavers from the Ardara area to move to Downings and join him in a new enterprise, which must have been a big move for those guys way back in the 40s. Anyway, during the 50s, the little team built up to a team of around 18 or 20 people, and in the late 50s it was decided to move from the building they were in and build what is the factory here, the mill today, which over the years has got added to. But the original factory was built in 1957. During the 60s it was all hand weaving here, and when I was a lad, I used to come over and there'd be 40 or 50 men drinking Lucozade at break time and all beavering away creating the fabrics. Later in the 70s and 80s, hand-woven fabric became too expensive to weave in Ireland as we joined the European Union and price of everything was going up. So they transitioned to power looms and more mechanized systems took over. I came out of college in 1980 having studied business, and at that time the plan was that I would go away to the big city somewhere and get myself a job, but it was one of the many Irish recessions at the time, and work wasn't plentiful. So after kicking around home for a month or two, my father said, right, you're coming to work. And I started working in the yarn store in the family business and learning the ropes, and I've been here ever since. The weaving process is where we intermingle the weft threads through the warp threads to create fabric. The modern machines that we have here today do exactly the same process as the hand looms that were here when I was a boy. Obviously, nowadays the electric motor has taken the place of the hard graft from the weaver, and the loom is a lot faster. There is still plenty scope for misweaves, broken threads, all the problems associated with weaving, getting the tensions wrong, all the problems that the hand weaver had 40 or 50 years ago are still here today. Sometimes the computer can flag that there is a problem being created, but it's the same problem. So the weft thread is drawn in from the side of the loom, and the heddles go up and down to create an opening for the thread to get inserted. If a thread breaks, the loom will stop automatically, and the weaver's job is to go and repair that, tie a knot and pull the thread in. His other main focus is on adding the cones of weft yarn and adding them in the right positions to make sure that the design doesn't get messed up. During the 80s, Donegal tweed was at the height of fashion, and John McNutt was the designer here in those days, and we had a few years of phenomenal success where tweed was maximum demand from the design houses in Paris and in Japan. Later, demand for tweed slipped back a little bit, so we reinvented ourselves at that point and started weaving a lot of linen during the 90s and noughties. Demand for Irish linen, a premium product, was very good in those days, but we again realised that it was time for another reinvention. And around 10 years ago, we decided to start creating a range of accessories, scarves, throws, more branded products rather than rolls of fabric. Now that we are creating our accessories brand, we are putting a lot more effort into finding fine fibres to create soft, luxurious products. So we're using merino yarns from New Zealand and Australia. We're using alpaca from South America. Quality fibres and luxury fibres to create a fine product, so that when we weave our magic into the yarns, that the end product is a premium product. Michael is the engineer here, and he works his magic to keep the machines running. They can be quite temperamental, and it takes the eye and hand of a real expert to keep things running smoothly. Michael was here before I started. He worked with my father, and his knowledge is beyond any encyclopedia. We have a great team working here nowadays, and a lot of us have worked together for a very, very long time. In fact, we're not going to start thinking about how long, but I regard them as my work family. We've seen each other on good days and we've seen each other on bad days, but at the end of it all, we all go home smiling, and everybody here is very committed to making us the best little textile company that we can be in this neck of Donegal. So it's Paul and Richard, Michael, John and Darrell. It's Demelza, Sharon and Marjorie, and then working alongside me in the office here in sales and administration are Lorraine, Rona, Anne and Laura in design. Nearly everything we weave here nowadays is for a scarf or a throw, and they have to have fringes. And this is the tasseling machine, and basically this is doing what creating a little plaited ponytail in your hair is the same concept, except it's done here on the machine. Now the trick here is to make sure that every plait the whole way across is equal, and that is the skill of the machine operator, John, who is watching every one of them. The great thing about weaving wool is that when you fringe it and it gets washed, it felts a little bit, so that the thread that is inserted across it can then be cut out and everything doesn't unwind again, unlike the plait in your hair. So if you are doing other fabrics like cotton, linen, you can't get a nice fringe. Wool is the only fibre that felts up and creates a nice fringe, and it's particularly good when you're using nice soft merino yarns that really felt nicely, and you have a lovely luxurious feeling fringe when everything's finished. The washing process is the next stage in creating wonderful fabrics. Washing is important because it opens up the fibre and softens them and makes for the lovely hand feel. Once the rolls are washed, the next stage is to cut them up into the individual scarves and throws and get them ready for labelling. Now that we've created a range of premium products, the next challenge has been to find a way to package it and portray to the end customer that this is a luxurious product. It is not a mass-produced product, and it is a quality item. And we spend a lot of time nowadays developing packaging for individual products, and it is becoming a vital part of what we do, along with the branding and all the imagery associated with it. When I sit at my desk and look out the window, I can actually see the beach. So on an occasional good day, you see everybody lying on the beach enjoying themselves in Downings. It is a great thing to behold. The scenery around here is fantastic, and I know most people in Donegal, like myself, take it a little bit for granted, but when you go away to London or somewhere for a day or two and you come back here, you know it is the place. Outside of work, I have two interests. One would be boating, and I always have for a long time had a small boat, and I also have had a great interest in motorsport. The Donegal Rally weekend is the high point of the year in my life, and it doesn't matter what's happening, I will have the Friday afternoon off work. A few years ago I bought an old banger of a rally car, and 3 or 4 times a year we go to track days and have a little bit of fun and pretend I'm a 17-year-old again, but at least it's not on the main road. I feel my job is like directing the orchestra. We have a great team of people here making great products, and it is my job to coordinate everybody's efforts to make a great product and create a sustainable, very long-term business and future for everyone.